Hey guys, it's William with Art and Practice Partners, and if you're a mental health provider working with VA community care referrals, I just wanted to walk you through how the billing process actually works. It's not as complicated as it might seem at first, but there are some specific steps you need to follow to get paid consistently and stay compliant. Alright, so let me start with the most important thing you need to understand. So the first step you starts with authorization. Before you see a veteran for therapy, the VA needs to have already generated a referral. This comes through what's called the Community Care Network, and it's managed by third-party administrators, either TriWest or Optum. That just depends on where you're located. And here's what that really means for you. So when that referral comes in, it's going to have a referral number on it. That number is critical. Every claim you submit must include that exact number or it will be denied automatically. I've seen practices lose thousands and thousands of dollars simply because this number didn't make it onto this claim form or it was in the wrong place. The referral letter also tells you exactly what you're authorized to provide. It might say something like 12 sessions of individual psychotherapy or 90837 times 12 visits, and it'll also have a date range, usually an issue date and an expiration date. You need to provide services within that window and stay within the number of sessions authorized. One more thing to understand is that veterans cannot self-refer. The VA has to determine they're eligible for community care first, usually because of wait times, distance, or the VA not having the specialty available. Once the VA makes that determination, you'll receive the official authorization paperwork. And then now let's talk about where you're actually sending your claims. This is where a lot of confusion happens, so I really want to make this clear. And there's 3 possible routes, and which one you use depends on the referral itself. Okay, first, if you're in regions 4 or 5, that's the Western United States, including Alaska. You're working with TriWest, and you'll submit claims electronically using the payer ID TWVACCN or mail them to their Florence, South Carolina address. Second, if you're in regions 1, 2, or 3, which is the eastern, southeastern, and midwestern states, you're working with Optum. The payer ID for electric claims is just VACCN, and paper claims go to a different Florence, South Carolina PO box. Now the last billing pathway is VA Direct, and this applies when you have what's called a Veterans Care Agreement, or in some cases where the VA itself is processing the claim instead of going through a third party like TriWest or Optum. And for these, you use payer ID 12115. Now what happens if you send a claim to the wrong place? It will get denied. And here's the thing, that denial doesn't stop the clock on your timely filing deadline. So if you realize 5 months later you sent it to the wrong payer, you might only have 1 month left to get it to the correct one. But the good news is that the referral will usually tell you where to send claims, and you just need to look for language like submit claims to Optum or submit to TriWest. Make note of that as soon as you receive the authorization. Okay, so let's move into coding. The VA uses standard CPT codes for mental health, so if you're already billing other insurances, these shouldn't be too unfamiliar. So for an initial eval, you'll use 90971 if it's done by a therapist without prescribing, or 90792 if a psychiatrist is doing the intake and addressing medications. And for ongoing therapy, the most common code is 90837 for a 60-minute, and that requires at least 53 minutes of face-to-face time. If you're doing 45-minute sessions, you use 90834, and for 30-minute sessions, it's a lot less common, but you'd use 90832. Family therapy with the veteran present is 90847, and that's just couples therapy or family sessions where the veteran is part of the session. Family therapy without the veteran, code 90846. It's rarely authorized by the VA, so make sure you check your referral carefully before using that one. Group therapy is 90853, and if you're dealing with a crisis situation like active suicidal ideation requiring immediate intervention, you can use 90839 for the first 60 minutes and 90840 for each additional 30 minutes, but you just need to document it thoroughly if you use those crisis codes. And another thing to consider is interactive complexity, which is code 90785. This is an add-on code for when you have factors that complicate the session. Maybe you're using an interpreter, or you're working with a child using play therapy techniques, or managing a difficult caregiver dynamic. You can add 90785 to your primary therapy code when those situations apply. So that was for coding. And then moving on to telehealth. Telehealth is fully supported for mental health and VA community care, and I want to make sure you're coding this correctly. So for your standard video sessions, you'll append the modifier 95 to your CPT code. So a 60-minute video therapy session would be 90837-95. You'll also use place of service code 02 or 10, typically 10 if the veteran is at home, 2 if they're at another location. Audio only sessions, meaning telephone, they're also covered, especially if the veteran doesn't have video capability. For those, you just want to use modifier 93 if your payer recognizes it. And the VA has increasingly accepted audio only for behavioral health, particularly since the pandemic. But then there is something critical about telehealth. You must be licensed in the state where the veteran is physically located during the session, not where you are, so where they are. So if you're in California and the veteran is at home in Oregon, you need an Oregon license to provide that service. Neither the VA nor the third-party administrators can waive those state licensing laws. So in your documentation, you want to make sure to note both locations, something like session conducted via video, veteran is located in Portland, Oregon, provider located in San Diego, California, and you should also document that the veteran consented to telehealth. And then moving on to actually submitting the claim. So the recommended method is electronic submission through your clearinghouse. Make sure your system has the correct payer ID loaded. And once again, it's TWVACCN for TriWest, just VACCN for Optum, or 12115 for VA Direct. And the referral number needs to be in a specific place in the electronic claim. So it goes in loop 2300 with reference qualifier G1. And if you're working with a billing company or a clearinghouse, they should know how to map this correctly. And if claims are getting rejected for missing auth, that's usually where the problem is. But you can also submit through the provider portals. Both TriWest and Optum have online portals where you can enter claims directly. This could be easier for smaller practices because the portal will often pre-fill the referral number if you start the claim from the referral record. And then paper claims are accepted, but they're generally not recommended if you have to. Just use a clean CMS 1500 form, not a photocopy, and put the referral number in box 23. And then in terms of claim submission deadlines, the only one you really need to know is 180 days from the date of service. That's your timely filing limit for all VA community care claims. If you miss that window, the claim is not payable and appeals rarely succeed. I strongly recommend submitting claims within 30 days of service to give yourself plenty of buffer for any corrections that might be needed. Then let me just explain how documentation works really quickly because it's a little bit different than you might expect. So your claims go to TriWest, Optum, or the VA with the referral number attached, but your clinical documentation, like your progress notes, your treatment plan, those actually go directly to the VA facility that referred the veteran, so not the third-party payer processing your claim. So after your initial evaluation, what you want to do is send that note and a brief treatment plan to the VA within 30 days. And then most of the referral letters will tell you exactly how to do this, usually through their HSRM portal if you have access, or via secure fax. And then you want to continue sending progress notes periodically throughout treatment. At minimum, send the closing summary when treatment ends. And it's not just paperwork, it's part of your contract obligations under the community care. And the VA needs this documentation to continue the care. And you generally don't attach the notes to your claims. The claims just get processed based on the authorization. But if a claim does get denied or goes to review, you might have to send documentation to support it. And then that's when the appeal process would come in. Next, let's talk about when you can expect to get paid. So TriWest typically pays clean claims within about 2 to 3 weeks. Their goal is 30 days, but many providers see payments even faster than that. And if you're set up for EFTs and ERAs, that speeds up things up considerably. Optum's timeline takes a bit longer. It's usually 30 to 45 days. That's just because they're processing a very large volume covering like the eastern and central United States. So it could take a little longer. But if the claim was clean, you should still see a payment within that window. And VA direct payments, those will take the longest. It can take 45 to 90 days, and it's just the slowest because there are more administrative steps involved. But here's what I would recommend for cash flow. So budget for about 3 to 4 weeks with TriWest, 4 to 6 weeks with Optum, and 2 months or more with VA Direct. And then you just want to keep a simple tracking system so you can follow up on any claims that exceed those timeframes. Referring back to that timely filing window. And then, so even when you're doing everything right, you might encounter some denials. And then let me just walk through a couple of the common ones and how to fix them. So authorization not valid for date of service just means you billed a date outside the referral's approved date range. So for those, you just want to check your referral for the issue date and expiration date. If you treat it after expiration, you'll have to request an extension from the VA. And then going forward, just set reminders for when authorizations are about to expire. Exceeded authorized units means you've done more sessions than were approved. So if the veteran needs more therapy, you need to submit a request for services form. That's the VA Form 10-10172 before you continue treatment. You also want to include clinical justification and progress notes. So missing or invalid referral number is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You need to find the exact referral number from your auth paperwork and resubmit the claim with that number in the correct field. Service not authorized means you billed a CPT code that wasn't included in the referral. For example, you could have billed 90847 for family therapy, but the auth only listed 90837 for individual therapy. So you have to either adjust your billing to match the auth or request an amendment from the VA to add that service. Rendering provider not in network means the clinician who provided the service just isn't credentialed with TriWest or Optum. You'll have to complete the credentialing process before those claims can be paid. And then incorrect payer means you sent the claim to the wrong place, maybe to Optum when it should have gone to TriWest or vice versa. Just redirect it to the correct payer. And you want to move quickly though, because the timely filing limits. So most of those are the most common denials, and most of those are straightforward to fix. The key is just catching them quickly and knowing what the code itself is telling you. And then now that we've sort of gone through that, let me just give you a simple workflow you can try to implement in your practice. So when a referral comes in, step 1, log it immediately. Note the referral number, the veteran's name, the authorized services, and the expiration date. And you want to set up the veteran in your billing system with the correct payer information. And before the first appointment, to verify the veteran's information and confirm they're in your state. If you're planning to do telehealth, make sure they're on board with the treatment plan. And conduct your initial eval and document it thoroughly. Within a few days, send that initial note to the VA. And then for each ongoing session, you still want to document the session, create a charge in your system, and verify you're staying within the authorized number of visits. Don't wait until all sessions are done to start billing. Submit claims at least monthly, ideally weekly. Monitor your remittance advices as payments come in, just so you can post them promptly and flag any denials, and so you can review immediately. And then This is something I also recommend, but if you're approaching the last few authorized sessions, reach out to the VA before then. If the veteran needs more treatment, don't wait until after the auth has expired. And then when all treatments have concluded, send a closing summary to the VA and just make sure all the claims were submitted and reconciled. I hope, that was a lot of information. It's VA community care billing for mental health is complicated, but it is manageable once you understand the structure. Get the auth first, use correct codes, modifiers, submit to the right pair within 180 days, and keeping the VA informed with your documentation. And if this walkthrough was helpful, please go ahead and subscribe for more practical guidance on medical billing and practice management. Thanks for watching.